that way we don't have to deal with reality anymore. And my reality, you know, I was so low, I was so dirty, I didn't want to deal with it. Taking that much LSD, for those of you who don't know, it puts you in an absolutely psychotic state. It took, I was a drug addict, so I was very small, a lot smaller than I am now. I was 150 pounds. My friend Matthew was 130. It took, I think, about 6 police officers, all of who weighed an average of 200 pounds. It took them a full half hour to get us into the cruiser. And they were hitting us with batons for all they were worth. One officer went to the hospital with us. Matthew grabbed him by a groin, and when you're on that much LSD, you don't feel pain. They were hitting his arm with a baton, and he didn't let go. I was crawling up the back of one officer, just screaming obscenities. When they finally got us into the cruiser, I remember just smashing the plexiglass and screaming that I had AIDS, which this is 1984. They didn't know what it was. I didn't have AIDS, but on LSD you'll just say whatever, and this was my psychotic trip. No necessarily rhyme or reason. Well, when we got to the hospital, you know, they were just beating us there. They were scared of us. They were angry because one of their police was in the hospital with us. They actually strapped me to a hospital bed, put a surgical mask over my face. I was spitting blood at the nurses and the police while I was screaming this. And for me, I thought that was a volcano. They thought it was AIDS-infected blood. So it just wasn't going good. And when I got put into an emergency room, 2 officers came in when the mask was over my face, and they started hitting me while I was strapped to the bed. Because I was such a regular at that hospital, because I was doing so many drug overdose and getting into fights and getting beaten up, they knew who I was, and they didn't want to invest any more time in me. And in some ways, the social service system might think that's mean, and maybe on some level it is, but when you're chronically coming in as a problem, you kind of understand why maybe people kind of get sick of you. Certainly this was just one of my latest overdoses. Maybe it was the most dramatic. They didn't want to keep me very long. So what they did is they kicked me out at 2 in the morning. And at first the police were going to charge me because of our fighting in the park. For some reason they never did. But I left that hospital in the back of a police cruiser in bare feet. My nose was about this big, blood all over my face. My hair was standing up almost like a mohawk. My eyes were just completely dilated. I was just seeing little cartoons of animals and multicolors. And in that state, they took me to the men's mission and literally brought me there. And there was a seat that I could sit on in front of the intake. I sat on the floor because I didn't know enough to sit on the seat. The intake at the men's mission said, we can't put this guy with the other people. He's too far gone. And you're talking alcoholics and schizophrenics. I was just too far gone for them. So they put me in a little bed in front of the room, in front of their office where they could observe me. Now, when I was laying there, I said, I blew my mind, and I'm no good for no one. I might as well die. And that was the night that I came to believe in God. When I left that men's mission, I ran out the door, and I went to a bridge, and I was quite literally going to jump off in front of cars. And this is like 2 in the morning. Prior to that, I was kind of proud of how I never believed in God, and I was proud of my left-wing ideology, even though it was turning my life into a complete mess. I had a deep sense of separation from God, and I believe that transcended the psychosis of the LSD. And for the first time in my life, I said a prayer that was halfway reverent. I said, God, I wish it didn't have to end this way. And I put my leg over. I didn't have any shoes on. I don't know where my shoes were. Maybe they were in the park from 2 in the afternoon when we were fighting with the police. And there was a car coming, and I was just about to drop in front of it, and it would have been a 50-foot drop onto pavement. The car would have hit me at probably 90 miles an hour. It was a very fast underpass, and it would have been over. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. It could be in the realm of mathematical possibility. I would tend to think it's more reasonable to believe it was God. You guys take whatever you think. A police officer just at that moment, and it's 2 in the morning, not hardly any cars on the road. This is London, Ontario in the 1980s, very sleepy, not a lot of traffic. This cop drove up behind me. He didn't know about my psychotic episode in the park with my friend Matthew.